What's up, Big Bear Nation, and welcome back to the homestead. So now that it's kind of cooled off for the day, I figured I'd walk you through some of the highlights of my garden. I first started trying to do this when it was hot outside, and there's so much to show you. So I started to do that and realized it's just too much. We have a lot of stuff growing here, and we have a lot of stuff that's not growing here. So let me show you some of the cool things that we do have going on right now. The first thing is what's right behind me. Let me see if you can see that. This whole bed right here is nothing but sweet mint and some echinacea. I started some echinacea from seed last year and planted a few plants in these beds, and there are some on the other side of the entryway of the house, and we'll get over those in a second. But what's really cool is they've gone from just being small, one little shoot here or there of a bloom, to this year they're crazy. There's flowers everywhere and they're continuing to bloom, which I think is really cool. Okay, so like I said, over here on the other side of the entryway, you can see all of these flowers. Like, they're everywhere. They've multiplied and they are absolutely beautiful. And I'm not the only one that thinks so. The carpenter bees love them too. So one of the things that has done fairly well this year so far has been my herb garden. I have been producing herbs all throughout the spring. I've had oregano. I think I've dried 2 quarts of dried oregano, which when you start to dry oregano, you'll realize that's more than oregano than somebody really needs. But in this bed, I've been able to grow rosemary, sage, all kinds of different things. Let's take a look. So this right here, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll show you. This is my rosemary, and it started out kind of puny, but it's starting to do much better. Now this plant, this is a pineapple sage, and funny story, I got that plant for free, and it had died back after we had a snap of cold weather, and I was going to yank it out, but then I decided to kind of pull a couple of things away to see if there was any green leaves, and I found a couple, so I just pruned all the way back, basically down to the dirt. And now, I mean, take a look at it. It's this big, huge, full, multi-branch plant. I mean, there's way more pineapple sage than I probably need. Also, one of my other highlights this year, one of my wins, has been my lavender. In years past, when I plant lavender, it would shrivel up and die very quickly. And so this year, I have 2 lavender plants, and they've thrown off all kinds of blooms. So I'm getting ready to cut those because it looks like it's starting to send off more. So I've heard that if you cut those blooms off, that it'll encourage more blossoms. So we're gonna try that. But check these guys out. Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. And then, so that's like a light purple. Kind of hard to see, it's kind of dark out here. But then these are the more rich, darker purple. Another highlight has been the basil. I got a lot of free basil plants this year. So I figured pesto, right? So I've got a whole bed that is nothing but, let's see if you can see it, right in through there. That's all basil. So this year I decided to do something new. I went and bought some horseradish, turmeric, and ginger root from a farmer's market in Atlanta. And I brought them home and planted everything in the dirt. And so far, I do have horseradish up. I'm gonna show you that real quick. It's pretty neat. Of course, something's eaten some of the leaves, but I literally just took it, put it in the ground or in the container, put dirt on top of it, mulched it a little bit, and it's starting to grow, so that's pretty exciting. Now you might notice as I'm walking through here that I have a lot of areas that look kind of overgrown, or they look kind of dead, and that's because we left a couple of our beds this year to save seed. So I have some kale, some cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, collards, all of that stuff that is still, we're still waiting because we had some rain and then it dried out and then rain and dried out. We're waiting for all of those seeds to completely dry before we pull them to be able to save them. But it's causing problems because in some of these beds I've already got, you know, cucumbers or tomatoes planted, and they're starting to shade those plants. So I'm almost at a point where I'm about to say, let me go buy some more seeds from Baker Creek and not worry about the seed saving. So I don't know, what do you guys think? In this bed particular, I got a bunch of determinate and indeterminate tomato plants for free this year from my feed and seed. And I have a lot of trellises, and so I decided I would just try to conquer the world with tomatoes this year. And so I have, these are indeterminate tomatoes that I rescued that pretty much look like they weren't going to do anything. And they're starting to grow. But like I said, I've got a cabbage plant here that's putting a lot of shade on these plants. So it's almost time for me to just pull them. But check these out. This has got all kinds of sprouts on it. And then look at this cucumber plant. Look at that baby cucumber. How cool is that? So we've got this cucumber plant. It's throwing off lots of blossoms, so hopefully we'll have some cucumbers soon. But if you see over here, I mean, this guy was planted the same time as that other one, but because of the cabbage plant right here, it's throwing too much shade. So I think there's a lot of pods on here that I may just pull them and let them dry on their own instead of letting them dry on the plant. I don't know. If it doesn't work, like I said, I'll just have to get more seed next year. So this bed behind me was my attempt at some square foot gardening. And I've done square foot gardening in the past and it's been pretty successful. But with this one, I took some of the concepts of like Jess's drawings that she had, where she had, you know, she mixed flowers with melons and peppers and eggplants and all that stuff. And so I have two beds. One is a square foot bed with the same plants, and then I have another one I'll show you in just a second, which is more whimsical, like how she has them drawn, where she has, you know, flowers on one side, flowers on the other side, some tomatoes across the back. But I'll show you that in a minute. Right now I want to show you how well this square foot method is doing. So right here, these are radishes. Now I planted a square of radishes here, and then there was a square of radishes right here. Now we've already harvested these. These we're going to harvest here pretty soon. There's a square over here. And then where that square is that's empty right there, that was also radishes. And those did really well. But as you can see, where these radishes are, they're starting to encroach on my pepper plant. So it's time for me to harvest all of these radishes so that the peppers have a chance to grow. And what I'll do is I will sow more radishes in here. But the thing is by the time that these peppers have a chance to grow up taller, the radishes won't, you know, get in the way of the peppers. But I have 4 tomato plants across the back. And then I also have intersown some long beans. And I'll show you those in just a second. But then I also have some eggplant. Check out these eggplant. There's a couple of blossoms on there already. And I think on this other one over here, there's actually a couple of, look at these babies. look at those baby eggplant. Aren't they adorable? I love eggplant when they're this size. And check this guy out. He's like yellowish green color. I guess that's just what he's gonna do before he gets big and purple. So far, this bed is doing super well. I've got, here you've got these long beans are starting to climb up. And then I also have lots of blossoms on the tomatoes. So that's pretty nice. So as far as I'm concerned, this method seems to be doing really well. Oh, check this out, look. Look at the baby peppers on there too, look. And y'all, this plant was also a free plant that I rescued. And it's already throwing off all these little peppers. So that's pretty cool. Those are all cayenne. So I gotta be careful because those are gonna be hot. I told you I did 2 beds of the same stuff, just 2 different ways. This bed right here, this is my whimsical bed. And I put a lot of stuff in here that I'm really not comfortable with. But it's all about getting outside of your comfort zone, right? So with this bed, let me spin you around here so you can see. Take a seat down here and show you. So I have all of these bean plants behind me. And I did them kind of like a snake pattern. They go through the middle of the bed. But check out all of these beans. I mean, I have beans everywhere. And these are bush beans. So, you know, we'll harvest them and then they're gone. They're done. Look at, ooh, we're gonna harvest this guy. Check that out. That's a nice bean. Of course, what would a garden tour be without harvesting something and trying it to make sure it's right? I love purple pod beans. See how cool, like, they're green still in the middle, they're purple on the outside, so that's pretty neat. And purple's my favorite color, so there's that. But I put all of these beans in the middle of the plant, but then over in the corners, there's a pepper plant here. There was supposed to be a pepper plant here, but I don't know if you can see that, but I think Gallagher dug it up. Bad dog. And behind me right here is a spaghetti squash. It actually threw off 2 plants, so I'm just kind of letting it be. But I need to get in here because I've already got some pest issues. I don't know if you can see those little eggs right there, but I gotta go get some packing tape and get those off of there because we don't want that. Look at this guy. Get out of here. Get out of here. So, but we have flowers down there, so hopefully soon we'll have some spaghetti squash. Also right here, I know you guys are looking through the camera going, oh look, that's marigold. So I have some marigolds in here. And then across the back, I have some tomatoes. There's one right here, one in the middle, and then there's one right here on the other side. Now, all 3 of those are determinate tomatoes, and I did that because my trellis right here, I guess you can't really see that very well, but there's a green fence right here and it only goes up about that high. So I didn't want to put indeterminate tomatoes in there because I knew that they would climb up over it and it would be a catastrophe. Another cool thing that I just started this year is nasturtium. I planted nasturtium for the first time this year and it has come up, and don't judge me because the leaves are a little curled, and that's because they need water, but there they are right there. Hopefully soon we'll have some flowers, but in the meantime we've got all of these purple beans going everywhere. We're gonna have a good harvest of some purple beans. So I'm curious what you think. This bed seems to be doing fine. It's just planted very haphazardly, and I'm very organized of a person. I like to have a pattern. And so this bed is really like, this is definitely outside of my comfort zone. I don't know if you can see all of those beds. There's 6 squares right here. And last year, I was really bad. I put way too many things in each one of these squares. So this year, I'm kind of scaling back. I got a bunch of those determinate tomatoes from the feed and seed. So I put 1 tomato in each one of those boxes. And then I'm probably gonna do like some peppers, like maybe 1 pepper plant, 2 pepper plants. And then maybe like some radishes or lettuce or something that can kind of, probably some lettuce, because a lot of those things will get very bushy, and so they'll have a little bit of shade. Behind me here is the trellis that we had last year, this guy right here. Last year I grew cucumbers on it, and the cucumbers did great until it got hot, and then, you know, they died back. But this year I'm putting beans on it because I'm trying to rotate my bed so I don't keep putting beans in the same bed. And so that's what I'm doing here. But I had something interesting happen. I planted 4 varieties because there's 4 sides of the panel, right? There's 2 full panels, and so that makes 4 separate places. So I planted 4 different bean varieties so that I could kind of keep them separate and know what I planted where, right? Well, in this bed right here, I've got a couple of late bloomers trying to pop up and grow. And you can see, I mean, I have a decent germination. It's not too bad. And then I go to this one, and there's pretty good germination. This one's doing really well. And then I come over here, and this germination is fantastic. I mean, it's growing like a weed. But then, what happened here? No beans. I know I planted in here. Although now I'm like scratching my head and going, did you get distracted and not plant? There's part of me that wants to dig up and like look and see if there's beans still in there. So I'm not really sure what to do about that. I think I'm probably gonna replant with something else. I know what I thought I was planting in there. So what I may do is not plant those and plant the variety that did really well over here, plant more of them over here just to see. But I'm really scratching my head about that because surely at least 1 or 2 plants would pop up and like nothing. So really not sure what's going on there. So my pride and joy of the garden, and it's really funny because, you know, we grow gardens for food, right? And this, I mean, it can be a food, but it's not something you think of as a food. But it's my absolute favorite flower, and I have been wanting to grow these forever, and I never get around to doing it. And this year I got seeds in the ground, and not only did I get seeds in the ground, but I have sprouts. Not only do I have sprouts, I have plants. Check this out. Sunflowers. And I've even got, I mean, definitely got a bloom coming there. Get out of there. I got a bloom there. I got a bloom trying to come there. There's 2 rows. So I've got those there. And for those, I wanted to plant the really tall ones back there, so they're doing really well. And then some shorter ones up here. And it's really funny to me because, you know, I tried to plant the shortest ones in the front, but I even have some in here that are not doing as, like, they're not growing as tall or thick. And I guess maybe I just don't have them spaced very well. And that's okay, because this is the first year that I've grown them. Learn something new, right? But what I did want to do, some of these that are really thick and really tall, I thought about planting some pole beans on those and letting them climb up. But I'm not sure. I don't want to ruin them. I'm so excited just to be able to have some sunflowers that I'm like, probably won't do it. I'm chicken. I told you guys that I got horseradish, turmeric, and ginger this year. I planted the horseradish. You got to see those leaves coming up, so we're pretty happy about that. The turmeric has not come up yet, but the other day I was weeding and I accidentally pushed some of the dirt back and I saw where the sprouts were kind of starting to come up, so I'm pretty sure they're just taking a little bit longer. But the ginger, y'all, it has started to sprout and it is super, super cool. Let me show you this. That right there is ginger, that one, and that little bitty guy right there. But not just that, I've got this guy starting to plot, you know, kind of come up through. And I don't know if y'all can see those, but this guy right here and this guy right here are starting to pop up as well. So hopefully we'll also have some ginger this year. So I'm excited. In this bed right here, I have some squash. These squash were plants that I rehabilitated from or rescued from the feed and see that they were just gonna throw away. And to be fair, some of them I've had to dig up and toss and put them in the compost, but others, like this one, are doing really well. This plant has already got a baby on it right there. And then this one over here has baby squash on it as well. But then you have ones like this that aren't doing all that great. And this one that's not doing very good. And I have a feeling I know why. Lagatha, what are you doing? She's like, who, me? I'm not doing anything. She's over there eating roots off of plants that I pulled. So I know that she's been in these beds and she's been digging around in them. And so we got to work on that. In this other bed over here, I also have Brussels sprouts. I don't know if they're going to do anything or not, but I've got little Brussels on them. I'm just afraid that it's going to get too hot too soon. But look, there's little Brussels in there. See them? These little knobs. There's some in there. So for as much as our family likes Brussels sprouts, I'm hoping that we'll get some Brussels sprouts out of it. I've instructed the girls to kind of keep an eye on them, and when they get to be like the size of maybe a nickel, we're probably going to harvest them so that they don't, you know, get too bitter. Okay, so final destination. We're here in the big garden. And what we've done is over the winter, we took out all back in there used to be trees everywhere. And we took out, and when I say we, Jason took out some trees with Kyle from Trip H and Chris from Naturally NC. They came in here and just lobbed down a whole bunch of trees, and it's provided us with a lot of sunshine to be able to grow in this area. And so what we've done is we're starting to put down the landscape cloth, and then we're covering it with wood chips, compost, soil, anything we can to start the no-till method. This year is obviously going to be a little bit of a struggle because we don't have a whole lot of soil, so everything's kind of got shallow roots, which is okay for most things. In this area back here, let me show you. We started with a whole bunch of pig muck, and I came in here and I weeded out all of this stuff, all of this monkey grass. And it's crazy because the roots are not very deep. See? They're not deep at all, but there's so much of it. I've already been through here and cleaned it all out, and then I planted corn. See the corn? But not all of it took. I've got maybe 1 or 2 plants, and then it'll be like a 4-foot gap, and then 1 or 2 plants, and then a 4-foot gap. Part of that is because the soil was so hard and we couldn't get it to break down very well, that anything that we can do to try and help that out. And corn is one of those things that will help break up soil. So I'm not really looking for this corn to be something that we harvest a bunch of. I'm looking at it for more of getting it into the soil to kind of break up some of these clumps of the pig muck that we had in here. And I'll show you down here what it looks like when it's not covered in mulch. You see down here, we got all these weeds growing because look at how that soil is. So I'm gonna have to come in here with a rake or my hoe or something and just kind of toss up this dirt some and kind of break it down a little bit, because it's pretty difficult to grow in right now. Except, it's just really funny. Let me show you real quick if I can find one. Yeah, check this out. Look at that birdhouse gourd. That thing is a monster. It's growing and it's still sending out shoots all over the place. So I know that we can grow birdhouse gourds in pig muck. Anything else? Not so sure. So I think what I'm gonna end up doing is top dressing this with more soil and compost at the end of the year and help it kind of break it all down. But one cool thing in here, well, two cool things. This next row that I have is all of the squash plants that I got from the feed and seed. And there's got to be 30 or so plants. Let me see if you can see that. There's that whole row. It goes all the way down. And it's nothing but squash, yellow squash. The last stop on the garden tour for now, because it looks like the heavens are about to open up, so I'm gonna do this quick, is our tomatoes. I've got 25 indeterminate tomato plants in here, and I don't know if you can see, but you got the bamboo trellis goes all the way down, and we have string. Now, of course, I'm a bad gardener. I haven't tied these all up yet. But if you look, all of these tomato plants are doing really well, considering that every one of them looked like they were gonna die when I bought them. When I rescued them. Now this one looks like it's struggling a little bit, and maybe that one, I gotta get some of these leaves off of here. But for the most part, they're doing pretty well. I don't know what it is about morning glories, y'all, but they absolutely love to wreak havoc on a garden. Okay, well, that about does it for the garden tour of June 2021. We have a lot of stuff in the ground, but we have a lot of stuff that's not in the ground. I'm really glad I was able to bring you along for this tour, because it forced me to see where we're at with our food production, and it makes me realize that I really got to kick it into high gear. I know we have a long growing season, but it's gonna be over before I know it. So hopefully this weekend I will get a chance to put more seeds in the ground so that by next month I'll have way more to show you guys. Now, if you liked this video, go check out this video on how to make our bamboo trellis that we're using to grow our tomatoes this year. It's an easy build, and ours were free. Thank you for stopping by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless, and have a nice day.